Hey there, guys, and welcome to another episode of the MH Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Miles Harrison, and today I'm going to give you guys 5 tips for fat loss. So, when I work with my clients, one of the common things we will generally be going through is, or should I say, one of the goals that people mostly come towards me is fat loss. Whether that's fat loss to obviously feel more comfortable in themselves, fat loss to obviously perform better within the gym, perform on the pitch. There are some nutritional guidance that is needed in order to get these type of goals. So hopefully by the end of this episode, I give you guys some tips, some tools to kind of help you along your journey to make things a little bit easier for yourself and not only get those results, but to maintain them for the long run. So if that sounds good, let's get straight into it. So tip number 1 is be consistent with your meals and prep your food. The amount of times I've looked at people's diaries or I've talked to people about fat loss, and one of the common things I see on a regular basis is the fact that they don't be consistent with their tracking. With the prepping of their food. And they're constantly making meals every single day. Now, if you've got time and you really like cooking, that's perfectly fine. That's okay. But what you ideally want to do when you're starting a fat loss journey is build consistency. And you want to build patterns that you know work. Because the more time you do something like that, the more efficient it becomes. And if you're having generally the same meals every day, you know, for example, the calories are going to be in them, the ingredients are going to be in them, the macronutrients are going to be in them, and guess what happens? It saves a lot of time. This is definitely one of the tools that I recommend for a lot of people when they are dead busy, when they're a lot busier than I am, and they've got other things on their plate. So, for example, that they're parents, that they've got high stress jobs. Like, you're not always going to have the luxury of preparing a 5-course meal every single day. So what I would recommend with this is, and this is how I recommend you guys to do this, is pick a day within the week where you could prep not every single meal you're going to have. Obviously, you got to have a little bit of variety in there. But if you can prep either like your breakfasts or your lunches when you go to work, then that means there's 1 less meal to think about, or 2 less meals in this case, to think about when you're tracking your calories and when you're looking at your kind of meal day. So start off with 1 day in a week where you're cooking a really big batch of food that can last you throughout the week. And if you listen to my other episode about the 5 times saving tips episode, and if you haven't, go and listen to that right now. You could plug them all on MyFitnessPal or whatever food tracking thing you're using, and then you can save them as a meal. So all you have to do is just copy and paste it straight into MyFitnessPal, and for the next 3 days, 5 days, how many days you've cooked your meals for, then you don't have to worry about that. It's straight out of the calorie depth, all that type of fun stuff. Bish bash bosh. You get it. Okay? Cool. Tip number 2. Daily weigh-ins and food intake. I've kind of alluded already in this in the first tip. You should be tracking your calories on a daily basis. I always explain it to my clients like it's finances. In order to pay your bills, to keep a roof over your house, to make sure that you're not overspending on a regular basis, you track your finances. It's the exact same with calories. If you want to make sure that 1, you're in line with your goals, you're in a calorie deficit, maintenance, surplus, whatever your goal is, being aware of what you're eating, being aware of how many calories you're eating, how many macros you're eating, is going to be vital. Absolutely vital for fat loss. Because if you're just winging it, whether that's just kind of like, you're not really kind of measuring out your foods, whether that's just kind of like you're putting a bit of this in there, a bit of that, you'll be quite surprised how much added calories that increases on your daily eating. And usually when I get clients of mine to do this, they are quite shocked to see how they've added an extra 300 to 500 calories to their daily allowance, which they just thought, I wasn't really eating that much extra. Or usually kind of what I get is that I'm eating the same things every single day, and I don't know how, or I'm not really eating that much, and I still seem not to be losing weight. If you're asking those type of questions to yourself or your friends or your family, try this. And then the other thing is daily weigh-ins. Now, I know a lot of people will take this quite personally, and they don't want to do daily weigh-ins. But the reason why I recommend this is because, one, for most of it, I'm always going to say awareness. Awareness is so key, because if you're aware of it, you can control it. Or you can control it to the extent, really. And the thing with daily weigh-ins is, the whole point of it is to build awareness and to make you guys realise that, one, weight, in my terminology, is your relationships to Earth's gravity. There are so many factors that play into weight more than just body fat. There's muscle mass, there's water, there's glycogen, all the stuff that makes your weight, and it's more than just body fat. Reason why number two, why guys get you to daily weigh yourself, is because you're going to see very quickly that your body weight is going to massively fluctuate. Sometimes you'll put on a pound, sometimes you'll lose 3 pounds, sometimes you put 4 pounds on, and you'll start to recognize what things do that. Now, I'm not saying that fluctuations are bad, fluctuations are normal. If you look at my kind of daily weigh-ins, you'll see that, especially on a match day -1 protocol, when I'm eating quite a lot of carbohydrates before my game, I could put on an easily 4 to 5 pounds. Easily, just because I'm eating some like 600 grams of carbohydrates. And the thing is about carbohydrates, for every 1 gram of carbohydrate, you're roughly taking about 3 grams of water. So I'll let you guys do the maths, simply just because I can't. But you'll see how patterns can occur if you're having late meals at night that are big carbohydrates, let's say pasta. You're going to put on a lot of water weight. Not a lot of fat weight, but a lot of water weight. But the whole point of it is that as you do more and more weigh-ins and you zoom out, whether that's weeks, months, you start seeing trends. Just like progress, it's not linear. Same with fat loss. It's not going to be a straight down journey. You're not just going to lose your weight just like that. You're going to have bumps in the road. Sometimes it's going to be high. Sometimes it's going to be flatlined. But if you zoom out, ideally, if you've done all the right things, we should see a downward spiral. So make sure you get your daily weigh-ins in, but also make sure as well that you are tracking and you're weighing in your food. Tip number 3, think from the end. A lot of time when people generally start a fat loss phase, they'll cut out everything. Or they'll do strategies that they just know that isn't going to be great for them in the long run. Whether that's intermittent fasting, whether that's the carnivore diet, whether that's cutting out Maltesers, something like that. Like the whole point of it is that you adopt the healthy lifestyles that, one, is going to be maintainable, but the version of yourself that you want to be when you lose the weight or you get to your body weight or anything like that is how is that version of you going to be eating? Because if it was myself, if I was to cut all them things off, I know that's not going to work in the long run. I love my food. And not one time have I said to my clients or anyone that I've spoken to about fat loss that you need to cut everything out, because the likelihood is you're not going to stick to it. The likelihood is an event's going to come up. You're going to have socializing events. There's going to be stuff there that you're not going to want to eat, not going to be in drink, and guess what? You're just going to be miserable. So I think when you're starting a fat loss journey, or even before you start a fat loss journey, plan it out. Ask yourself the question, is this future version of me are going to be eating these on a daily basis? If the answer is yes, you can be a part of it. If the answer is no, then you can start taking away with that. And if you are going to start subtracting things away from your diet, then make sure that, how am I going to put this now? Make sure it's a person that you like to be. If you're looking at this like, let's say, diet plan, let's say these kind of eating habits, and you kind of, but this person looks quite boring. He doesn't socialize. He doesn't eat any kind of good food. Why am I kind of doing this? You're not going to stick to it. So think from the end. Yes, fair dues. There might be times when we might need to sacrifice or eat a little bit of less of the fun stuff to get the ball rolling. But think from the end, and the process will be a hell of a lot easier. Tip number 4. Look to increase volume in every meal. Now, obviously, you've probably heard before that you want to obviously start most meals with a dose of protein in there as well. One, because it facilitates muscle growth as well, because it also keeps you full, all that stuff. But volume is a massive thing when it comes to weight loss. Like swapping out things like a bag of crisps for a popcorn or something like that. Or make sure you're stocking up on a load of fruit and veg or multicolored foods. Foods that are going to be less in calories and very, very high in volume are going to be your best friend when it comes to weight loss. It's going to fill you up. More than likely, they're going to have a great source of macronutrients and micronutrients as well, so they're really good for health, especially if you're doing things like leafy greens and stuff. And also as well, they're going to make things a hell of a lot easier for you. There's nothing worse than having a couple of cookies that are like 600 calories when you've only got like 1,600, 2,000 calories. That's a pretty big portion of your meal, and that can be ate within 2 bites. But if you try to have 500 calories of strawberries, trust me, you're going to be full before you hit probably 1 or 200. So it's about making those choices that allows you to obviously still enjoy yourself, but also as well, make sure that you're eating a lot more food without massively increasing the calorie intake. So tip number 4, make sure you increase the volume in every single meal. And then tip number 5, and I've alluded this to every single other tip, don't restrict yourself too much. Because it's great to start. You've got that motivation, you've got that drive. You said no to the Kit Kat on a Maltesers multiple times. And then you start noticing that you have a little bite over here. You have a little bite over there. And then so you notice you're not doing anything that you did when you first started. Or if anything worse, you have a massive big binge because your husband, your girlfriend, or you're just a little bit tired and they've asked you, would you like a takeaway? And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you probably go, fuck it. Instead of what normally might have been like a small portion, you've gone, you know what? Because I've been so good, or I've so treated myself, I'm going to have starters, I'm going to have mains, I'm going to have more of this and more of that. And next thing you notice, you've completely undone the work that you've done for the last 2-3 weeks. It's just not a good strategy, and it's a recipe for disaster. So what I recommend is a lot of people will say go for the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your foods are going to be your whole foods. They're going to be bright and colourful foods. They're going to have foods that are very high in macro and micronutrients. And then your 20% are your fun stuff. Other people say in the strategies of have you ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear? Great book, by the way. I definitely recommend it, especially for habit stuff. Really makes a nice blueprint for creating new habits that you guys want to obviously stick to. Recommend. But he says something in regards of that every decision that you make, every step that you do is either a step towards your goal or a step away your goal. And just like when I said about the tip when it came to the weigh-in, obviously when we zoom out, over time, we want to make more decisions going towards your goal than not. And you'll be quite surprised if you give yourself just that little bit more freedom, then you actually would quite be expective how much longer you'll stick at it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that it's going to be, when you're not super strict on yourself, the weight's just going to pop off. When you're doing it something like that, you're going for the long haul. You're not just trying to absolutely rush through this fat loss phase and cut all your food off and all that as well, because one, I don't think you're going to learn a lot from it, and I don't think it's particularly healthy. But I find that when you're doing those kind of like quick things and all that, the margin for error is a lot higher because it's a lot stricter. But I think if you go for a more slower approach where you allow yourself a little bit of treats, you allow yourself to go and have a little bit of fun with your friends, when you go out for food, you have a meal with your Mr. and Mrs., it gives you a little bit more freedom and you don't actually feel like you're actually in a fat loss phase. So I hope these kind of 5 tips that I've given you guys, I've given you something to think about. Obviously, there's a lot more tips out there, but I kind of usually use these tips to kind of help me with my own kind of like fat loss phase with Anita or my clients. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the MH Performance Podcast. If you like this episode, make sure to watch another one. Give it a 5-star review, or share it with your friends and family. But my name is Miles Harrison, guys, and I will see you all in the next episode.